All right, so it is 5:01. Sorry if I scared anyone. It's 5:01, so it's time to start. Uh, Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Um, the topic for today is cost estimation for home construction. And my name is Andrea, and on behalf of MeDea DA, I'm delighted to welcome you to this very important discussion. So, as you all know, as we all know, building a home is one of the most significant investments many of us will ever make in our lives. And understanding how to financially plan for that foundation is basically how you would probably achieve success. We're very honored to have Mr. Gideon Abochie with us today. He is a distinguished architect and the founder of Gabochie Design. With his incredible insight into construction, planning, and budgeting and cost estimation, we believe at MeDea that he's uniquely equipped to guide us through today's topic. Sorry about that. I would like everyone in chat to please be careful and to please try their best to stop video recording and to mute themselves, and be careful not to disturb the audio because this will be broadcasted on YouTube. First and foremost, I'd like to introduce Mr. Gideon. Mr. Gideon, can you hear me?
So, as I was saying, I'm honored to have you join this webinar for us to learn about the cost of home construction in Ghana. And I'm hoping that by the time that we are done, we will all have insights into what really goes into trying.
If you're speaking, it's very
my speaker is unmuted. So
yes, we can hear you.
I'm not sure you guys get a feedback from.
We can hear you, Gideon.
Okay. Okay, sorry. So I'm saying that I'm honored to have you join this webinar for this presentation, and I'm hoping that by the time we are done, everybody will get a bit of information to be able to help them with any home construction, the cost of home construction in Ghana on their projects. So currently, what I decided to do was to have a checklist of things a checklist of costs that you might incur when you decide to build your house in Ghana. So can everybody see my screen? Can you
Yes,
see
we
my
can
screen?
hear you. Yeah, we can see the screen. Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, I basically starting a construction project in Ghana is one of the biggest costs you might incur in your life if you try to build in Ghana. But most people get started without thinking carefully through it and taking a detailed look at the cost that goes into it. And because of that, a lot of people get started and then eventually they're overwhelmed by the costs that come to them because it has a lot of steps and each step has some cost that you need to incur. All right, so on the screen, I'm starting with as an introduction. It basically says the checklist of costs associated with building in Ghana. So building a property in Ghana, as you can see, it requires a careful budgeting and planning to ensure successful project. So this presentation is basically outlining the key cost considerations for those embarking on a construction endeavor in this vibrant West African nation. So first of all, we are going to talk about acquisitions. Can you see my screen, please?
Yes, we can see your screen.
All right. So I'm on the second slide, and basically, if you decide that you want to own a property in Ghana and start construction, you know that one of the biggest things you're going to invest in is the land. So when you try to invest in the land, a whole lot of steps goes into it, and each step has the cost that comes with it. First of all, when you decide to purchase a land, most of the time you'd have to start scouting for the land. Maybe some of the best places to look is like online, and then eventually when you find an agent, the agent takes you out, and eventually you get the land, and you're going to pay for it. Most of the time, depending on the location, the agent might have to get paid a hefty, amount of money because he was able to find that land for you. Apart from getting the land, after paying for the land, you need to get a surveyor to actually get the demarcation of the land for you, and the documentation of the land with respect to the site plan. After that, you need to register your land, which is also another long process that you might have to go through, get that done. Now, remember that when you try to, get this land, and you most of the time you have to deal with certain officials when you try to register your land, and that's where a lot of frustration comes in. Anytime you have to do anything that involves the government, you realize that you might have to go through a whole couple of, crooks and crannies and shortcuts, and there are a whole lot of things and a whole lot of middlemen that come into this. So if you don't take care and you try to do it yourself, you might see that you are stalling, because most people expect you to, wet their palms to be able to help you to, quicken the process of maybe registering your land or anything. So there's a potential bribes that you might have to incur. When it gets to that point, I think it's one place that you have to be flexible, because without that, you probably are not going to get your documents through. This is not something that is mostly talked about, but it's something I thought I might chip in for you to be aware as you try to build and then try to acquire land to build, basically. So I'm going to go to the next slide, hoping that you would have found your land. Most of the time, even when you get your land, one thing that you might have to do is protecting the land. Most people do not register their lands right away. So once they get the lands from the landowners, they try to wall it. And because, people are just taking other people's lands, like land piracy and stuff. Somebody enters your land, they build on it, hoping that when you come, they'll just say, oh, I built on it already, so I'm going to pay you up. So most of the time, you have to wall your land and most likely put a gate entrance there, so that anybody who tries to sell that land, anybody would have questions. Anybody tries to sell that land, the one who wants to acquire the land would ask a lot of questions about why the land is walled and all that. Sometimes to protect the land, you even have to write something on it like this land is not for sale or something. So that is just by the way. So having acquired your land, now the next best thing if you want to build is to be able to get a professional to give you the architectural design for the vision that you have for the land. It could be a residential thing that you want to do, or it could be a commercial building that you want to put up. So if it's a residential, it could also be a single-story residential. It could also be a double-story or multiple-story residential. So based on the scope that you want to develop your land, based on the scope within which you want to develop your land, you would have to deal with a couple of professionals. So one of the key professionals that you need to deal with is the architect, who is the visionary for your project. So you would have to incur architectural fees. Now, architects don't work alone. Based on what you're putting up, you'd have to deal with a structural engineer, an electrical engineer, a plumbing engineer, and then a mechanical engineer who basically comes up with the air conditioning and all of those things. So if it is a commercial facility, there are other auxiliary costs that you would have to incur, which are something like if it's like a commercial facility, you'd have to incur structural soil test for a structural engineer. The structural engineer will need a soil test to be able to put up to be able to design the right structural system for the land type that you are putting your building on. So based on whatever you need a soil test, you'd have to pay for some guys to come and dig into the soil, take it to the lab, and then do all sort of tests. Apart from that, if it's a commercial facility, you might need a traffic impact assessment report. Sometimes you might even need EPA, that is environmental protection report. So that is if it is commercial. But if it is residential, all you will need will be the architectural services and then the structural engineering services. There are other things like the interior design and all those things, but they come in afterwards. So basically, in a nutshell, you need architectural fees, you need engineering consulting fees, and based on how the scope that you want to go in, you will need an interior designer who will also charge for the interior design fees. Sometimes you may even need a landscape architect to design your landscape for you. So basically, an architect is not responsible for everything. He comes in with a grand vision, and he gets all these other consultants who also come in with their fees that you need to pay. Apart from that, once these guys get all the drawings for you, you might have to pay for permits and approvals. Usually, the entire drawing is printed out, and a certain set is taken to the municipality who are going to give you the permit to start building. They are going to go on a couple of meetings. They are going to take some information from you because you fill the form, and then they are going to come back with an amount that you are supposed to pay based on the cost of your land and then the total size that you are developing. So these are the basic fees you might have to incur at the services level, the building design and services level, and then the permits level. So I'm going to the next slide. The next slide still has to do with the building permit. So it's one thing that you are going to incur. Like it's showing here, the building permit will help you to secure appropriate building permit for the local authority before commencing the construction. Now, depending on the land on which you're going to put up your building, if it is already serviced in the sense of having utilities and all that, utilities like gutters, electricity, water, and all those things, you are safe. You probably might have to go in and register for those things. But so those are things you would have to pay for. But then if it is a new site, then you are going to have to be creative, and probably you might be the best person to bring in electricity, which will cost you even more. So basically, you're going to pay to bring in or to be connected to the utility in the locality. Yes. There are things like environmental clearance and occupancy certificates, but those are not serious issues that we actually deal with in this part of our world. So basically, that is it. So now we assume that you've paid for everything and you've been able to get a contractor. I forgot one thing. Once your drawings are ready, one important thing that will clarify the amount of money you are really going to spend is something called bill of quantities. And that bill of quantities deals with the building that you're going to put up in particular. It is a document that is developed by the quantity surveyor. The quantity surveyor takes everything that has been designed by the architect, the structural engineer, the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing design engineers, and then he puts them all together, and then he quantifies them as in the total amount you're going to, the total figures, quantities you're going to need, and then how much all of that is going to cost. So it's going to cost the building when you just have the structure and the envelope. Within the structure and the envelope, you have the foundation, you have the building envelope, and then you have the roof. And that is just the structure. So apart from that, he's also going to quantify the finishes that you are going to use. Finishes are, depending on your personal preference, you might have a low-level standard or a high-level finish. So he's going to also give you the total amount of money that you are going to spend. So this QS, quantity surveyor, you also need to pay him. But sometimes he's the most important person because he gives you a clear vision of the total amount of money you are going to incur the cost you're going to incur to put up your building. Yes, and most of the time when you have a building, the structure and the core, and then you have the finishes. The finishes can be twice as much as the structure and the core. So when you're putting up a building, let's say a simple residential 2-bedroom, and you're able to put up the foundation, then the structure, then the roofing and everything, the rest of it is going to be the plastering, and then the finishes and all the little bits that comes to make the building very beautiful. And that alone is most of the time twice or more than the main structure, like the concrete and then the blocks that you put up the building with. So it's one thing that you would have to really take cognizance of. So basically, this is what it is. Now, once you have the bill of quantities from the quantity surveyor, you are going to have to get the materials stage by stage. And the materials, materials will cost you some money. Once you get the materials, you're going to have to transport them. You're going to have to transport them to the site. That is also going to cost you money. So usually when the QS brings that document, it usually contains the cost of materials, the labor of the various artisans and then the masons and all those guys that you're going to use. And then it has the material, the transport, and the labor. So with that, you get to see how much you are going to incur. Yes. So that document is very important because it helps you to know if you're spending more than necessary. And also, when you decide to get a contractor, some of the time, people give. It's advisable to give your drawings to the contractor, and then he will quantify how much he's going to use to put up the building for you. So a bill of quantity is very good. Once you get it from your QS, you can compare it with the bills that the various contractors bring on board. Then when you check their quality of work with respect to how much bill they brought, you can know the best contractor will take up the job and put up your building for you. Sometimes if you are building yourself, at least you have enough information to be able to know how much you're going to pay the mason, the laborers, the carpenters, and all those guys coming on board. Yes. So basically, that is what it is. So this has to do with so we've just discussed the QS's document leading us to help us to be able to know who we are going to get on board, such as the mason, the carpenter, and laborers, and how we are going to pay them. Now, apart from those guys, once the building starts taking shape, you realize that the fenestrations are basically openings that you have, like doors and windows and all those things. So once they are done, you need to get a quotation from these guys. This is where the finishes start coming in. One finishing is the plastering. The plastering comes in, and after the plastering has come in, you need to get regular bars. You need to get the glazing itself, and then the doors that you have. Usually, the architectural drawings would contain something called door and window schedule. So this helps you to know the quantity of doors and then the quantity of windows, and then it helps you to, take it to a door or a glazing contractor, and who is able to give you the exact quantity, that's the amount of money that you are going to spend to get your doors and windows. Apart from the doors and windows, regular bars you'd have to spend on it, because definitely it's one security measure that you have to take for your building. All right, so basically that is it. Now the roofing is also one huge finishing that you are going to spend money on. Roofing can be very expensive in Ghana. So when you're getting a design, most of the time, if it's a hidden roof, it could be one slope roof, or it could also be the regular one that you see, the entire roof. One slope roofs are usually less costly than the regular roofs that we see. So that's one trick that you can use. You see a lot of modern houses and all those things, and the advantage is that you don't have to spend too much on roofs, but you would have to technically execute that roofing, the hidden roof wall, so that you don't have leakages in the roof in the future as you start using your building. So okay, I want to talk more about the labor cost now. When it comes to the labor, you know that you're going to have a lot of laborers. I mean, the labor cost, you have the skilled labor, which is the main mason, and then you have carpenters, and you have and general laborers. The main guys who are going to help you put up the building are the mason, and then the carpenter, the concrete aspect of those things of the building, and then the carpenter, wherever we need to have a concrete mold, comes in, and then he creates his mold before it is poured. So a carpenter and a mason are some of the labors that you're going to have to get on board, and you're going to have to incur labor costs for that. Apart from that, there's this personnel they call the foreman. Basically, he comes on board and makes sure that everybody is working in tandem to achieve whatever you are, the building that you are putting up. Make sure that everybody, he organizes everybody to put up the building for you. In bigger projects, you also have some professionals like project managers coming in, and they come to coordinate the entire project to maintain the timing within which they want to achieve that project, the quality of the project, and also the cost of the project that has been budgeted. So that is at the higher level. You may need a project manager. But when you're putting up your residential, the one you may need is the foreman, and he also has to be paid. Basically, that is it. Once in a while, once you get started at each stage, the architect has to come in and supervise and see to it that the building is being put up according to what he designed. So once in a while, based on the post-contract you have with the architect, he would come in every now and then to supervise your building and make sure that it's being put up the way he designed it. So you might have to also pay the architect. So I think basically we've covered a lot. I want to talk, my next slide is going to talk more about the utilities. And I think I talked about the water. Sometimes when you get started, you're basically going to need water to mix your concrete and all those things. You'd be lucky if you are already in an area where you are connected to water utility. So that way you could just go into the water company and then get a meter for yourself, and then you can use it for the construction. Otherwise, then you'd have to be buying water through and through out the construction of your building. And so because of this, some people they dig boreholes on site if the site is a remote site, or they can create a small pond that they can be filling with water now and then. It's also advisable to have electricity, apart from the fact that you will need to be connected to electricity eventually. Sometimes when they are working on site, you might have fabricators coming on site to grind and drill and weld things. So it's always advisable to have it in mind to spend on some electrical stuff. So if you're able to get the electrical connection, you're able to get a meter, then you will be using your own power to get all those things done. So it's also another cost that you're going to incur. There's also the sewage and drainage. If there is no gutter there, you might have to improvise. So that is something that most of the time, when it comes to sewage and drainage, you can't do much about it unless they decide to target your area that, okay, they are going to put gutters around. There's nothing you can do. You probably are going to have to dig something and then fill it with stones. And so basically, with sewage and drainage, you can't even just get up and decide that you're going to have your own gutters and all those things, because it's a risk you can take, but the government can come in at any time and stop you. And if you do your own sewage, it's not really going anywhere. So most of the time, it's good to dig your own hole and have something like a septic tank that you can drive. I mean, you can direct your water stuff to. Another thing you might incur cost on is telecommunications. I mean, if you don't have a pole there, then you are going to have to get them, whether Vodafone, to come in and fix a pole for you and then supply you with their cables. Yes. So that is the bit on the utilities. Utilities, water, electricity, sewage, telecommunication, and all those things. Okay, I'm going to the next slide. Okay, well, I mentioned it earlier on before, but this slide also, I mean, talks about it one more time. Anything that you're going to buy for the construction is going to be brought to the site, and you are going to need transportation. You buy wood, it's going to be transported to the site. You buy cement, it's going to be transported to the site. You buy sand and stones and chippings, all of them are going to be transported to the site. So most of the time, these materials you buy, they include the costs of transportation. Or sometimes the material itself is exclusive, and you would have to negotiate the cost of bringing those goods to your construction site. So it's one thing that you are going to have. The equipment that you need to bring to the site. Sometimes you need something like a mixer. You don't always have the masons mixing things by hand. Most of the time, it's faster and quicker if you get the equipment on site. Some of the equipment that you might have to rent, the mixer, and then the compactor. Yes. Sometimes when it comes to concrete works and you don't want to use the masons, you might have to buy concrete from those industrial guys. They sell concrete in bulk, and you might have to just get them after the carpenter has done your formwork. You get them, they come and pour the concrete, and then they go. That one is faster, but it can be more expensive. So when they are coming, they also have their transportation and everything all embedded. It's faster. That is the only advantage of using that as compared to using masons to mix all those things on site. All right. So basically, I think that there are other auxiliary things. This slide is talking about legal and professional fees, and talking about land transfer, permit approvals, contractor contracts, inspections, and all those things. We've talked about that. We've talked about that already. Most of the time, with respect to the inspections, when you put in an application for a permit, they will spend some time on your drawing, and then from time to time, they will need to be coming for inspections when you start building. Those guys, I mean, depending on the kind of relationship you have with them, they might frustrate you, or they might let your construction be smooth for you. So these are petty, monies that you would have to use to sort these guys out. Particularly during the land acquisition and throughout the construction, sometimes on certain sites, you'll be forced to spend some money on something they call land guard fees. It's not legal, but most of the time, the owners of the land have formed these gangs that keep coming, to frustrate you just to make some money. And if you don't take care, you might just get frustrated and give up on the whole thing. But you need to have a way to pull down those guys and show them some love. They don't really require much. Show them some love, and then they will let you peacefully have your construction done for you. So basically, I think that is what it is. I think the next slide is talking about something totally different. But when you own a building in Ghana, you are not done. After you build a house, you are not done spending money. You are throughout the life cycle of the building. You are going to maintain the building. You are going to do so many things with the building. So having a building on its own is not the end of the whole game. Once you are living in the building, from time to time, 1 year, 2 years, things are going to get, you're going to have to maintain things, and you're going to still continue to incur costs on your on operations and maintenance of the building. Is everyone with me still, please?
Yes, we are still with you here.
Yeah.
Yep, we are.
Okay. So I think I have run through it, and I think that I don't know if this is the time to start asking any questions. If there's any place that you didn't really get clarity on, I would want us to really start from the beginning and go through and see.
Actually, I would actually like to ask a question based on the land guard issue. I'm sorry, I apologize for being missing in action. I had some technical issues I had to fix. I apologize to everyone and Gideon. I've been listening regardless, and this has been very insightful and fantastic. So I just wanted to see if you could touch on the culture of land guards, because as we move into the future as a people, where we would like real estate to be more legitimized and streamlined, what do you think, or how do you think we can possibly solve those land guard issues?
So usually, the land guard issue, usually it's a problem that comes in when you buy land directly from the chief. These guys usually have guys they use to protect the land. So once you're buying land directly from the chief, you're going to face the land guard issue, because their claim is that they've been protecting the land way before you bought it. And I mean, they've done good service to you, so you are supposed to show some love. So the best way to really cut them out is to buy land from the real estate guys, the real estate guys who are selling the land, because they would have dealt with all those guys. And once they sell your land to you, all you need to do is to just get started constructing. So the land guard issue, I mean, once you buy it from the real estate guys, you've basically cut them out. So that's the best way to actually deal with the land guard issue.
Oh, okay. So basically, that's what we do technically in MeDea GH. We basically take you through that process and make sure that you don't really have to deal with those types of issues. So thank you for explaining that, because I thought it was an all-round thing as to pertaining to any piece of land. I didn't think that once people like us sorted it out, it would be there and there ended.
Yes. I mean, usually when the real estate companies buy the land from the chiefs, they make sure that it's easy peasy for the final, end user of the land. So they sort the chiefs out, and the chiefs also make sure that the boys understand that, okay, this land is a no-go place. It's this company has acquired it, and they are going to, it's a real estate company, and they are going to sell it to their people. So you don't go there. So any guy who goes there, basically there will be nothing that he can fight for. He will just be wasting his time. So I think that's the best way to go about it. And if MeDea is doing that for their client, then I mean it's the best place.
All right.
Okay,
so
it's the best practice.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so if you do have a question, everyone, please be sure to type it down in chat. I'll take the first one. It's from Trisha. Thank you, Trisha. It says, what modern tools or softwares are available for cost estimation in construction? So what are the tools?
What tools?
Yeah, what tools or software?
Software. Oh, basically, the quantity surveyors have their own softwares. There are no softwares that you could just go and then dabble in and be able to have your building done for, like your building quantified for you. they have a certain process they go through, and they have an index, because they're always checking the cost of materials against the rates that we have. And I think in Ghana, every 6 months there's a change in the cost of materials. Basically, it goes up. So when it comes to tools, I mean, there are a whole lot of them. Personally, I deal with my professional side of things, and then I let the quantity surveyors deal with their professional side of things. So I don't dabble in their tools. What I always advise clients is that let's get a quantity surveyor to quantify these things, so that we all know how much you are going to have to invest into this building. So when it comes to tools, unless you're a quantity surveyor, you probably might not need to be dabbling in these tools, because it's not going to really make any difference or help you out. There may be some online tools that you could enter the total floor area, but what that gives you is a guesstimate. It's not a full realistic detail of what you are going to incur. And then also,
I was just about to ask you about those online cost estimation tools, because we have a lot of do-it-yourselfers around here when it comes to construction, right?
Yeah, those ones are guesstimates. They just been able to come up with a formula. You enter a floor space, total floor space, and then you multiply it by maybe $700 or something, and then it gives you. But things are always changing, and you cannot really rely on those tools. The reason why I don't recommend those tools is that it will set your expectations for how much you're going to spend, and then when you get on the field, things are totally different. I mean, about let's say in labor, let's say 6 months or 4 months ago, a mason would charge you 150 Ghana cedis per day, but today they're taking 170. A laborer will take 100, but today a laborer is taking 130. So if you should use those per square meter figures, you might find yourself underestimating how much you're going to pay. And one important thing also to consider is that you need to always have something called what do you call it? What it actually is an extra, a contingency, something they call contingency. For example, if you know that you're going to buy something, like you're going to buy tiles for your finishing, and then what is on paper is like 1,000 cedis, you need to make it 1,250, because some of the tiles might get broken or something. Basically, you need to have something called a contingency, because something might just crop up that will require you to spend more money than you had initially projected. When it happens like that, you use the money. When it happens that the contingency is not going to be used, it is usually refunded to the client. So it's something that you should also budget for. Basically, that's it.
Yeah, that's understandable. Okay. I would like to pick your brain about this. You being a professional, and you've been through a lot of basically clients, customers, how you will call it. What is one budget that people commonly forget?
One budget that people commonly forget.
Yeah, something that people generally fail to remember when they're planning for these things. Because I mean, you can have a checklist for everything. You can check everything down. You can do all you're supposed to do. But then, what? You can list a few if you want.
Yeah. So most of the time, what I realize is that people think that once you have the architect design the building for you, you can just go onto the site and just start building. And then sometimes when you tell them that you need to get a permit for it, and the permit is going to be charged, I mean, you're going to be charged some money based on the total square meter that you're developing. And then the cost of the land. They're like, but this is my land. Why should I have to pay permit for putting up my own building on my land? It's something that usually takes people aback, and they are like, I mean, it sort of doesn't make sense to them. But the permit is very important, and it even seals the asset of the building. If you should decide to sell the building, the permit is one strong asset that people will buy in once they realize this building has a permit. So that is one thing I think people forget, but eventually they realize that it's some cost that they have to incur whether they like it or not. That's one thing about it.
Brilliant. That's amazing. Thank you so much for answering that question. Before we move on to the next questions, I'd just like to remind everyone that this webinar is being recorded for YouTube purposes. So if you go into chat, you will see that we have a bunch of links that you would want to follow or possibly subscribe to if you would like. Feel free to follow us on Instagram and to also follow Gideon on his either his Instagram and his website if you would like to contact him for like further questioning, or you possibly do not understand what was spoken on during the webinar. Please take your time, send him a message or a DM on Instagram. I'm pretty sure he'd love to. You can also send us a DM on Instagram too if you would like us to do some cost evaluation and some cost evaluation and some property management for you. We have a lot of services concerning that. So I always suggest everyone in chat to check out our social media when they can. Right. So moving on, the next question is, pardon me. What are the advantages of sourcing locally versus importation? So I'm guessing this is about the materials concerning building costs and construction.
Okay, yeah, thank you for asking that question. You know, most people think that I have a client. He usually likes to source. He likes to buy from outside when he wants to. When he gets to the finishing level of his construction, because he thinks they are more quality. But the thing is that he's going to have to now import, and then he's going to have to pay importation fees and duties and all those things. It's very expensive, and it can delay the construction, because you're now going to have to ship things in, and then it will be cleared at the port and all this. So if you have a time within which you want a construction done, you want something done, sourcing locally can be much quicker than bringing it in from outside. So that is one advantage. It could be sourcing locally makes it easier and cheaper in terms of the delivery and also the cost, compared to when you have to now import. It could be more expensive because of the freight fees and all those things. And then it's also going to take much longer time than finding it locally. For me, what I advise is that people should get stuff locally, but they should get, the main problem with most of the jobs that are done here is the finesse. The finesse, when you get artisans who know exactly what they are doing, and they are supervised to achieve the quality of finesse that the project requires, you can have a very nice architectural design stuff using locally sourced materials. So I believe that is how I solve that problem, because most people think once you bring it from outside, then it's going to look nice and all that. You could bring something from outside, a very expensive tile or something for your facade, and then a bad artisan could just mess it up for you. So sourcing locally is more advantageous. Bringing it from outside does not necessarily mean that you're going to have the top-notch kind of thing. All of that depends on the finesse of the artisan working with that material that you have brought in. So that is in a nutshell, sourcing locally is faster and cheaper compared to having to import your materials.
Thank you so much. We do implore people not to fall under the fib of everything is everything is better from the outside world. We do have amazing people here constructing beautiful African, West African type designs. I see them every day on the streets. So honestly, I would like to see more people take a more sustainable role, especially when it comes to the fact that the dollar is so high right now. I actually once recently passed by a door. Well, it's an interior decor store, and the doors cost about 16,000 upwards. And I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. It's a door. It's one door. So how many are you gonna get?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. A lot of people take advantage of the fact that construction people are looking like for top-notch kind of things for their buildings. So people take advantage of it. Security doors are basically expensive because they are imported from Turkey and some from South Africa, and basically imported. So most security doors are very expensive. Yes, that's it.
Well, I guess it has to do with a bit of taste too. I guess I would just like a wooden door personally. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's almost time to leave. So we'll take the final question, then do our closing advice. What strategies can homeowners use to reduce construction costs without compromising on quality?
Yes. One way is to personally get involved. Get involved with the nitty-gritties of the whole process. Some like to, instead of buying blocks, they like to fabricate their own blocks. A lot of DIY guys, they want to see what actually goes in, and it looks like we are right now in the maker culture kind of thing. So a lot of people want to get into the nitty-gritties of seeing how the things that you're going to use get made, and especially when they compare it to the already made ones. They are like, okay, let me just fabricate my own blocks on site. At least it comes with the joy of seeing that you are also involved in the whole process. So one way is to get involved, and I know a client who basically at each step he gets the equipment and gets the boys to fabricate things. So that way, even after he is done, he's become like sort of an expert in these things. So basically, he doesn't take his window fabrication to any like roadside fabricator or to do it for them. He gets the boys, and that way he's even able to supervise them with to achieve the quality that he wants. So once you get down to the nitty-gritty of things, you can get the best boys to do things for you, as well as you can get it cheaper. And in the long run, if it's something you enjoy doing, you might probably end up having, playing the game in terms of being part of the competitors who also fabricate stuff and do stuff for people. Apart from for your own construction, now if you've managed to start creating blocks, eventually if you've found yourself a place where you can consistently create more blocks, people will also start buying from you. If you are fabricating glazing and you have become very good, just by getting involved in it with one project, you could start advertising yourself that, hey, I do fabrication and stuff like that. So basically, if you want to cut costs without compromising on quality, you have to get involved in some of the things that are going to be made for your building to put up. So that is what I usually advise clients to do.
Well, that's very interesting. I didn't think people would dabble so much into it because we already have the professionals doing it. No, that's something to think about. All right.
Yes,
sorry, go on.
Yeah, that is if you have the time and you're a DIYer, if you have the time. Otherwise, if it's either you have the time or you have the money. If you don't have the time and you have the money, you have to spend the money.
True. Very, very, very true. Very, very true. That's interesting. All right. Okay. So we've come to a close. We're literally at the end right now. Would you, Gideon, Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
We had a question just pop up. Do you think you can answer another question? Okay,
Sure.
sure. Okay. So, okay, last question, final question, last question for
All
everyone,
right.
and
Okay.
we'll close.
Okay.
I promise. What are some of the common challenges when navigating building permit processes? So, what do people find most challenging when they're getting building permits?
You know, in Ghana, there's this thing we call papapa. And when you go to any government office, everybody wants to, chop some money, chop something. So ideally, building permit can take up to like 3 months to acquire once you put in the permit. But if you don't take care, it might take you 1 year to get a building permit. And that is just because you put it in yourself and you didn't have a middle person, following up for you. So if most of the time, if you're going to put in building permit, you need to have the permit money available, and you need to have something to give to somebody who is in there, who could be following up, who you could be calling consistently. Otherwise, they'll just frustrate you. So that is the most frustrating thing. It's not like straightforward through. I put in my building permit, and then they are going to work on it. They don't care. If you don't take care, your drawings might even get missing, and they'll tell you, we can't find the drawings, and you are going to have to print fresh new drawings, and it can be very frustrating. It's because everybody wants to chop some money, and they expect you to come to them and say, oh, please put this in for me, and make sure this, and then sort them out. That is there. So most of the time, you can't just put in a building permit and just go sleep, sit at home, and hoping that it's going to work. So that is one most frustrating thing about it. I had a client. I mean, the client even paid the guy some money, but the attitude was the same. They just couldn't work together. They wanted, most of the time, even with building permit, they want people who have actually flouted the rule. The flouting the rule means that you started the building before you decide to come in for a permit. That way, they know that you're going to pay a penalty, and they're happy to work on it because there's money to be made in that. So that is one of the. Those are some of the things that makes getting a building permit very frustrating in Ghana.
I have a feeling that real estate in Ghana is becoming a cash grab scheme, or it's turning out to be. It seems because it sometimes leaves a bad mark on it when people only look for the profits about it, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's the system for you. Everybody's trying ways and means to survive, self-preservation. So there's nothing you can do.
True, that's very true. That is part of human survival. A bit of philosophy in your a bit of philosophy for the webinar. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you have any long-lasting advice to lay on us before we leave?
With respect to building in Ghana, look for money. Look for money. Don't look for small money. Look for big money, because you'll be surprised. I mean, sometimes you get some stash of money and you think you have money, but when you start building, it will let you know that you don't have money. You understand? So look for real money. I mean, when I say real money, acme, like look for cocaine money. Excuse me to use that word. Look for money, because building is very expensive in Ghana. That's it. Basically, if you intend building in Ghana, look for some real good money.
We'll all survive. We'll all survive.
Yes. And then also, sometimes, I mean, once you've acquired the land and you have a grand vision for your design, most of the time, if you're not able to achieve that, your money can actually get locked up in the building without you having completed it. In that building, you can't sleep in it. It's just sitting there for so long. So sometimes it's advisable to even have something small, like a 1-bedroom boys' quarters or something that you could get started in and be on your land whilst you're using it. And then as you continue to work and save some money, your mind will be on the main grand vision of the building. So most of the time, don't decide that you're going to build a 5-bedroom house. Yes, and you might be overwhelmed by it. But if you decided, okay, this is what I can afford now, but I want to still live on my land, you can start something small. Most of the time, the boys' contest does not even need to be exclusive. If it's a story, you can have the first story done, and then you would have a certain portion of it. Depending on who you are, if you are not like somebody who wants to be splurging and showing that you gay, you can do that. But if you have the money, you think you want to express yourself, and it's part of your lifestyle, well, go for it. Basically, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I hope you understand what I'm saying, though. Yeah.
Oh, we do. I very much think we all do. Thank you so much for this hilarious, insightful webinar. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for attending. We really appreciate the fact that you did turn up for us. Gideon, a huge heartfelt thank you to you for giving us an hour of your time to just discuss what we usually forget when it comes to cost estimation and what we need to always keep in mind. Thank you so much, Gideon.
My pleasure. It's my pleasure.
All right. So I would like to announce that this will be our last webinar for the year. Thank you so much for attending once again. We wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Please remember to check on our page. We are having a land promo, where we do have up to 15% off on our land titles and deals. We'd be happy if you just check that out or give us a call for inquiries. That's fine as well. You can also, once again, check on Gabochie Design, Gideon's business, architectural business. His Instagram is at GABOCHIEDESIGN, Gabochie Design. It's also in chat for everyone who needs it. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you in 2025. All right. Thank you guys so
much. Thank you everyone for having me.